prices can't come down because for two main reasons. The first one is you, the shareholders. Most of you are shareholders out there. You have 401ks or mutual funds or what have you. And so because you're shareholders, you want your shares to keep always going up, right? You want that delusion of wealth to continue. And so companies can't really lower prices because that would affect share prices. The other reason behind that is the executive staff. Usually the executive staff of these companies, their compensation is tied to share prices, and that's largely because of the whole fiduciary responsibility laws. So there's no responsibility to the long-term health of the company as long as the shareholders, get a return that they were kind of loosely promised or something like that. So your prices will never come down as a result of that. Your prices will always go up largely because of your greed and the greed of the executive staff of most companies. This is just reality. This is going to be interesting watching as the economy declines. And the reason it's declining, of course, is because of birth rates. And this is happening all over the world. Birth rates are declining, and it's largely declining because of three reasons. Number one is the rent seekers or your slumlords that, once again, keep borrowing into this madness. And they keep taking out bigger loans and keep raising the rents higher because they can't make any kind of return, because once again we're in a declining economy. I've done like 36 videos on this. So when you have that, you grow an economy one way. You have kids. That's the only way to do it. Anything else is just moving money around and trying to be more efficient. That's all that is. Okay, so your slumlords or rent seekers are your number one culprit. Number two is you've taken away accountability from women altogether, and you just keep subsidizing them into being corporate concubines. That's just reality. That's what these mega companies are doing. They're just subsidizing this into keeping them around as corporate concubines, which is why they are making more money than most men. And men have checked out and said, forget it, I'm going to play video games and watch OF all day long, I guess. Right? Because that's just what they're doing. I mean, this is just reality, okay? And then, of course, the third one is the so-called family courts that have taken it upon themselves to completely destroy men because they're just looking for somebody else to pawn it off to. No, if you want to find out why everything is going to continue to suck and it's going to get worse, it's largely because the people, both the idiots on the right and the idiots on the left, in other words, idiots in general, all believe they can get somebody else to pay for their fantasies. And that's not reality. Eventually you run out of everybody else's money and hard work, and the people who do all the work just throw their hands up and say, I'm not doing it anymore. Now you can try and force them. This is the idea of the left, usually. I mean, as we've seen in other countries where it's just force them to work, just create more laws and make them lawbreakers. So that way we can justify it morally somehow that, well, they're in jail. And this is also true for a lot of the idiots on the right too. I mean, let's just put them in jail and get cheap labor. Yeah, they don't hear themselves when they talk. Hypocrisy, of course, is the number one culprit of all of this, because if you look at the theme of what I just explained, it's all related to hypocrisy. And until people are ready to deal with that, which most people aren't, they're not ready to go to the mirror and deal with the hypocrite in the mirror, because that takes work. That takes actually, being willing to look inward. And most people, when they look inward, are terrified. And if they're terrified, they're usually terrified enough to probably either do something about it or check out. One of the two. That's what ends up happening. Fair warning. So if you're strong enough to look inward, you should probably try it.